Now we are. Okay. All righty. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so why did we start a class dedicated to meal planning? Why can it be beneficial to plan a weekly menu? Well, meal planning is one of the best ways to save money and eat healthy. And the keys to success is planning ahead and being prepared. So we're going to talk about each of these in detail. First, we're going to talk about determining your budget. So before we start meal planning, that's an important step to go through. And this will be different for each of us, but we'll kind of talk about budget and how to make the most of your money. Second, we'll talk about making your meal plan. Third, making a grocery list off of what you've decided what you want to prepare for the week. And then meal prep, if that's something that you want to get started with. And then you'll be able to enjoy more homemade healthy meals the whole family will love. So is anyone's goal to eat more at home? Is that a reason that some people signed up for this? To be able to eat more family
Yes.
meals? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so we talked about coming up with your grocery budget. Does anyone already do this? They kind of have a set amount they want to spend each week. Okay, awesome. Awesome. So this might be a review for you, but I think this is a good essential first step when we're talking about meal planning, okay? So I wanted to throw this out there, and this is just a kind of a reference. If you haven't made a grocery budget before, this gives you an idea of, kind of maybe where you want to be. But this is based off the USDA food plans chart. And I thought this was interesting. This is monthly, so keep that in mind. And this is for how much it might cost a family of 4. So this is 2 adults and 2 children to buy groceries each month. All right. And there's 4 different kind of budgets. So there's thrifty to liberal. Thrifty is where we're spending the least amount of money, and liberal is where we're spending the most amount of money. So if you have, more or less adults and children in your family, it'll be more or less than this. But this is just to give you an idea, kind of what the average American household is spending, a 4-person household. Okay, so thrifty, we're kind of in the 500s, 568 at our lowest, and then liberal, we're over 1,000. That's kind of our range. Does anyone have any dietary needs, whether it be you or kids in the household? Maybe just a show of hands. Yeah, so I wanted to put it out there. When you're coming up with your grocery budget, if you have dietary restrictions you're needing to accommodate for, you might need to, plan on spending a bit more than someone who doesn't have that need. Does that make sense? Because we know that, someone can't drink cow's milk. We might need to buy lactose-free milk, which tends to cost a bit more. If someone's vegan, we may need to buy vegan cheese rather than regular cheese, which will cost more. So just making sure that, if that's a need for you, that you are saving a little bit more to add to your grocery budget, because those items are going to cost a little bit more than it would for someone else. All right? Cool. So assessing your grocery budget. So you can compare what you're spending to the USDA food plans chart, which is on the previous slide. And there's a couple of questions to ask yourself. First, how much do you currently spend on food each month? And this includes eating out, okay? So this includes your grocery shopping. It includes going out to a restaurant, getting fast food, even put coffee in there if you get coffee. And so what I would recommend, if you haven't already done this, pick a month where you think you spent an average amount of money. So I was thinking well, you should do this month because we're super early in the month, and maybe not last month since there was Thanksgiving. You might have spent a little bit more than normal, but maybe go back to August or September or October and go through your bill and kind of, put everything together that you spent on food. This is not the most fun thing. I did this, with myself a little while ago, and it's not very fun because a lot of times you probably spend more than you think you did. But it's kind of necessary to see kind of where you're at, and you gotta do that before you decide where you want to be. Does that make sense? So, and we don't have time to do that today, but if you haven't already done this, I just encourage you after class today, kind of just go through your bill for 1 month and kind of see where you're at right now. Do you have questions on that, Andrea? Have questions? Okay. Okay, awesome. So based on how much you are currently spending, to what food budget do you currently fall into? So first step is to kind of figure out how much you're spending. Then we can go back to our previous slide. Again, this might not be the same if you have more or less kids than a 4-person household, but you can kind of see, where do you fall right now in what you're spending? Maybe you're in the moderate cost, and maybe you are trying to go to the low cost, or maybe you feel like you can spend a bit more. So figure out where you currently fall into, and then figure out where you want to be. So if you're currently in the moderate cost range, then maybe you want to go to the low cost, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to make the most of your money so you have a bit more to spend on groceries. Okay, does that make sense? I think this is essential when we're talking about meal planning. We just kind of have to talk about budget too. So if you would like to increase your grocery budget, consider the following. And by increase, I mean, like, do you want to be able to have more to spend on your groceries? Here are some ways we can save money, okay? So a lot of the food that we buy away from the home, and this is a big reason we have this class, is to eat more at home, but thinking about that, maybe you're eating out a lot, and that will typically cost more money. I know fast food is a money saver, it feels like, and sometimes it might be less than cooking at home, but we know it's not as nutritious, right? We know it's typically large portion sizes, high in calories, high in fat, high in sugar. So it's tempting sometimes, but realizing that eating at home not only is healthier, but it actually does save money. And then, are there costs you could cut back on? So to give you kind of an idea of what this looks like, I looked at, I think it was the month of August, and I went through my grocery budget, and I kind of figured out how much am I spending on food in general, all food. And then I figured out where I was, in the, thrifty to liberal plan. And then I realized, okay, what are some costs I could cut back on? For me, I typically get coffee out a lot rather than bringing it to work. And so that was a cost that I felt like I could cut back on. Maybe it's the same for you, maybe it's something else. But instead of getting coffee as much as I decided I could get coffee twice a week. And that was my limit. And I could kind of figure out what days I wanted it, but that was my limit. So doing small little things like that, even though coffees are only like $3 maybe, it does add up in the long run, and it can help increase your grocery budget, okay? So think about the small things that you're getting. Maybe you are getting breakfast on the way to work, or you're getting coffee. Maybe you're going to the vending machine, and even that adds up. The more you prepare at home, the more you save in the long run, and that's where meal planning comes in. And then keep in mind, food prepared in the home is generally more nutritious than food from restaurants and fast food facilities, okay? All right, so this is just a visual. We're not going to go through all of this, but this is just to kind of point out how small things in the long run can add up. So coffee on the way to work. Let's say you're getting coffee 5 days a week, and it costs $3 each time you go. Per year, that'll end up being almost $800. Does that surprise anyone? Yeah. So it's just like interesting to know that. Or let's see, getting a fast food dinner for a family of 4 might be $20, right? We're just estimating there. But let's say you're just doing it 1 day a week, you're spending over $1,000 a year on fast food. All right, so just a little bit motivation to maybe try to eat more at home to save some money in the long run, all right? So ways to cut back on spending habits and get the most out of your money. Here are some things I came up with, and I would love for anyone, if you have things to add, to unmute, but eating breakfast before leaving home or packing a breakfast to go. I have a whole class dedicated to the importance of breakfast, but breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That is not a myth. And so whether it's, even if you don't feel like eating before you go off to work, if you're a person who gets nauseous or doesn't typically get hungry, packing something that you can eat mid-morning at work rather than being tempted to go out. Using a thermos to carry coffee made at home, so bringing your coffee rather than getting it to go. Packing your lunches. If you're a person who is likely to want to go out and get your lunch when you're out, maybe making sure that you have something on hand so that's not tempting. And then just eating out less often. Does anyone have other ways that they've cut back on their spending habits? I'd love to hear from you.
I found that I like to snack on crunchy food. And so I started reading the labels more. And then I started seeing what the serving size for those. So I'll buy like the pretzels in a large bag, and then I divide it up by the serving size, and that's what I allow myself.
I love that. I was actually going to mention that later in today's class. That's what I do too. So like if you get like a big carton, you know, those like 30-ounce cartons of goldfish, I'll get it at the store and I'll come home and I have those little snack baggies too, and I'll go ahead and portion it out. And that way it's grab and go, right? So I love that. So glad that you're already doing that. Awesome. Does anyone else have anything?
For me, I try to go to Costco. So we do like a Costco trip at least once a month, and we'll
Okay.
get kind of all the essentials, like paper towels, toilet paper. But we get lots of our meat there, and I find that meat there is much cheaper. And kind of I'll spend one day meal prepping for kind of a lot of stuff, so I have options, and I can just make spaghetti sauce and then freeze it.
Yes, that's awesome because meat can easily be frozen, right? So we don't have to worry about it spoiling. I love that. Another, and not everyone has this available to them, but another way to kind of save on meat, because typically that is the most expensive thing on our grocery list, right? If you can go on base or post and go to the commissary, if you're a military family, meat is typically a lot cheaper, and that's where I buy my meat. So yeah, finding ways to save on meat, or when meat is on sale, grabbing a bunch of it and then freezing it. So love that. Love that. You guys
I like
already
to
have
do
some
grocery
awesome tips.
pickup.
Oh, okay, great.
That way
And
I don't get distracted by everything like that I
yes,
don't need. Like for big orders, if I'm just going for like milk, that's obviously not worth it, $35 minimum at Walmart. But
mhm.
other things like toilet paper and stuff, I just do grocery
Yeah,
pickup.
I love that. We're going to talk about going to the grocery store, and we're going to talk about how much money you spend every time you go there because of all the temptations. Also, you all have small kids, and so grocery shopping might be hard if you have them with you. And so the grocery pickup has been, I've heard a lot of parents tell me that they do that. So I'm glad that that's something you all are trying and it's helping. Awesome. Thank you all. So, okay, first we talked about budget. That's the first thing we need to consider. Now let's get into meal planning. And this is the key to eating healthy all week. So there's 5 benefits to meal planning, each that we'll go into. First, it saves time, it saves money, it allows you to eat healthier, reduces stress, that's a big one, and then it allows you and your family to eat together more. All right, so first let's go into saving time. And I think someone mentioned this, that so it takes time to plan meals, but it saves time during the week, right? So if you have a day that you want to dedicate to planning your meals for the week, then it'll take some time, but you are dedicating that time in order to meal plan, right? So you know that that's what that time is going towards. Then during the week, when things get hectic and a lot of things are going on, you are really going to be glad that you meal planned on a day that was less hectic. So you're not having to find things last minute. So, and you'll get faster with practice, but find a day that works for you. It might be different for everyone. Maybe you don't have a lot going on Sunday afternoons. That is when I meal kind of plan for the week. But maybe Sunday afternoons are busy for you. So maybe you want to do it on Mondays, but whatever works for you, kind of dedicate some good time to plan for the week. And then you're going to be really glad that you did that when things get busy during the week. Save more time by reusing previous menus. So just because you're meal planning doesn't mean you need to try a bunch of new recipes. You know what your family likes. You have family favorites, right? And so reuse those and kind of do a cycle menu. That's what we do in the school, that way you kind of know what you're doing, you know what you need. And typically if you do those recipes a lot, you have those ingredients already on hand, like the spices and all of that. Also something I would recommend when you first start meal planning is try to choose simpler recipes. Just because a recipe has more steps or more ingredients doesn't make it healthier. So like try choosing recipes with 5 ingredients or less to make it easier on yourself, and that'll help you save money, right? So, and then set aside a time one day of the week to create your meal plan, all right? Save money. So you can save as much as 15% on your grocery bill by carefully planning out your meals. That's more than $100 for a $700 monthly food budget. So you can save a lot of money. And then eating healthier. Has anyone seen or heard of My Plate? And I know the people who have done my classes before know. If you haven't, because I know we have some new people in today's class, this is the revamped version of the food pyramid. So if you learned about the food pyramid in school, it was really hard to kind of visualize, like, what is this trying to tell me? So they revamped it and they made it into My Plate. That's what this visual is. And it shows what our plate needs to look like at every meal in order to be balanced and healthy. So it's really easy, right? If you make your plate look like this, then we're pretty much good to go. It has our 5 main food groups. So fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairy. And when you're meal planning, you want to think about this because you want your meals to have each of these food groups in it, right? And so think about that when meal planning. Kind of the main takeaways from My Plate. Make half of your plate fruits and veggies at every meal, all right? So thinking about making sure you have enough for the week in order to make that happen. Make half of your grains whole grains. So we can see from My Plate that 1/4 of our plate needs to consist of grains. So maybe trying to choose healthier grain options, maybe doing brown rice instead of white rice, or a whole wheat tortilla instead of a white tortilla, things like that, a whole wheat English muffin instead of a white English muffin. Fun fact, since I'm the one who does the food for your kiddos when they're here at school, they get all whole wheat things and they usually eat them. And so they're already kind of used to it. And so that might not be a huge change for them if you start doing that at home. And then vary your protein choices. So choosing leaner cuts of protein. So if you're doing meat for your protein, choosing leaner cuts is a healthier way to go, but also realizing that protein doesn't need to be meat. So mixing it up for your protein sources. You can do beans, you can do tofu, you can do nuts, you can do egg, like a hard-boiled egg. So there's a lot of different protein options rather than meat. And we talked about how meat is more of an expensive option. So it's great to have days where there's no meat on the menu to kind of save a bit more. And then choosing non-fat or reduced fat dairy. So if you have kids 2 years and younger, it is recommended that they be on whole milk because they need the higher fat content. But once we hit the 2-year mark, and then for us adults, it's recommended we be on low fat dairy. So like 1% milk or skim milk. I drink 1% milk. That's just what's recommended. So just so you all know. So those are kind of the main takeaways of My Plate, but thinking about this visual when meal planning, that way you know that you're making a balanced meal for you and your family that you can feel proud about. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then reducing stress. Honestly, I think this is the biggest benefit to meal planning. You can rest easy knowing you have a meal plan and all the ingredients you need. When you use a weekly meal plan, you don't have to scramble to come up with a healthy meal at the last minute, right? And then planning for leftovers makes packed lunches even easier. So leftovers. That's a great way to save money and to meal plan. So if you're making something for dinner, make sure you buy like twice the amount of ingredients that you need. That way you can double the recipe and you have leftovers on hand. And leftovers make a great packed lunch for maybe your kids if they're older, or for you. All right, does anyone do leftovers a lot already?
I do.
Yes.
Yes, awesome.
Make my husband eat them.
Yeah, I love it. Leftovers are honestly, some people didn't grow up eating leftovers. I definitely did, but that is a great way to save money. And you're going to be glad that you did it if you double a recipe and you have that in the fridge ready to go. It's really nice. And then eat together. Honestly, growing up, having family meals are some of the memories I remember the most. It's a great bonding experience. I would recommend having like a consistent meal time every day. That way your kids and your significant other and you can plan for it, like maybe at 6 or 5 every night. That's when you have dinner and that's an expectation that everyone sit down at the table. And then limiting distractions is a huge thing, especially for kids, because they can get easily distracted and they can get overwhelmed if there's too many things happening at once. Especially if you have a picky eater, that is a huge tip. But trying to turn off the television, not allowing phones at the table, and just letting the mealtime be about the food and being together. All right. Okay, so steps to meal plan, there's 5. So step 1 is prepare. Step 2, start with the food you have. That is like my favorite tip of the whole class. We're gonna talk about that. Step 3, add family favorites that are on sale. Step 4, include plenty of fruits and vegetables. And step 5, we're gonna review. So let's go through this. Step 1 is prepare. So once you know your budget, I would recommend just making it easy on yourself and use a meal planning template. So to make it even easier on you, after today's class, I'll be sending you an email with kind of like a follow-up, from today. And I'll be including this attachment because this is what I use. And this is a great kind of template that you can start with. So what I would recommend, like once you figure out your grocery budget, that's the first thing. Second thing is get your calendar and print this off and start figuring out. So the cool thing about this, it's your grocery game plan. So it has breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as snacks Sunday through Saturday. So it includes all the days. And I really like this because not all of them have a snack section. And when meal planning, that's an awesome thing to think about because you don't want to just get ingredients for your meals and then you have nothing to eat outside of meals, right? And then there's even the notes section which I use for non-food items. Like if you go to Walmart, if you need paper towels and like things like that. So it has everything you might need. And the reason I say have your calendar on hand is you want to plan easier meals or leftovers on the busier nights of the week, right? So let's say your Wednesday nights are typically a really busy night, like there's soccer practice and then maybe you typically work late that night. I'm trying to think of examples, but maybe that's just a busy night for you. And so maybe what you want to try to do every week is you want to do a double batch of something on your Tuesday night. That way on Wednesday, you don't even have to think about it. People can warm up the leftovers and you're good to go because that's a busier night for you. So that's the reason why I say have your calendar next to your template and kind of figure out your meal plan for the week. Does that seem helpful? Does anyone already do that? Yeah. Okay.
Definitely try to I'll buy lots of groceries and then I'll try to meal prep on like one day, but that's my day that I get to treat myself and buy something that's already like made. So I kind of I'll meal prep all one day, but that's the day I get to eat out.
It's like a little incentive in order to, because it takes some time to meal plan. I absolutely love that. Awesome. Okay, so that's our first thing.
Can I interject for a moment? Hey, I believe it's Maricela. If you could please mute. Your kiddo keeps coming in louder than Kelsey.
Yeah, everyone, if you wouldn't mind muting, and then if you have a question or a comment, definitely unmute. But that way, yeah, everyone can hear me okay. Thanks, Liz. And then write your name down because I didn't have it. Okay, so that's our first thing is preparing. And we're gonna write down our meals. And you might not feel like you can do a whole week at once. You might not be there yet, and that's okay. But this gives you, maybe you just want to start with lunches. You just want to figure out lunches for the week, or maybe you just want to do breakfast. So, it's individual kind of what you feel like you can do at once. Or you figure out snacks for the week, just like start small so you can work up to where you want to be. And then start with the food you have, right? So most likely you have a lot of food already on hand in your pantry, in your refrigerator, freezer. And you want to use these first while they're still fresh because we don't save money when food goes to waste, right? And so we don't want food to go to waste. So when you're thinking about what you want to, make for the week, think about what you already have. So like if I know I have ground beef in my freezer, I want to think of what recipe can I make that will include the ground beef. That way I'm not having to buy more meat. And that way I'm using the ground beef before it goes bad. Does that make sense? Yeah, so think about what you already have. And that might be, you might need to, open your pantry and take some things out and see what's in like the very back. See what you have so you're not forgetting about things. So here are some ideas to use kind of things that you just have lying around. Use leftovers for lunch or some dinners. If you have leftover veggies that you're not sure what to do with, you can add them to your like pasta sauce. I do that a lot. You can add rice, meat, or beans to make a soup or a stir fry. I make a lot of stir fries because Stir fries are great because you can kind of just put random stuff in there and it usually tastes good. And then, yeah, leftover vegetables to pasta sauce, salads, omelets are a great way to use leftover veggies, and on pizza, like homemade pizza. Leftover meat, you can do sandwiches, quesadillas. You can even put some meat in your scrambled eggs, make them a little bit more hearty so you're not, hungry. And then a great way to use some fruit that you have on hand that you're not sure what to do with, make a smoothie, add some yogurt or milk to it and make a smoothie. That's a great snack for kids, especially if you have trouble with them eating their fruits and veggies. They'll usually drink them better than they'll eat them. So smoothies can be a good option. Okay, guys, this is the resource that I'm so excited about. And I've posted this on Dojo before. So you might have seen this already, but it's been a while. So I'm going to pull this up so you all can see it. Hopefully I can, we'll see. Okay, here we go. Can you guys see this? Okay, so along with everything else I'm gonna send you after class today, I'm gonna send you the URL to this website. It's called Supercook. So when we're talking about the things that we already have on hand, this website is awesome because you can actually type in the ingredients you already have and it'll give you recipes to make using those ingredients. That's like the best idea I've like ever heard of. I'm like, why does this, why hasn't this been a thing? So I don't know if I can write, like, can you guys see me writing? Okay, yeah, so let's see if I have ground beef I need to use. I need to use some broccoli and like, maybe I have like some whole wheat pasta. Hopefully this will work. I might have to put them over here. It's been a while since I've done this. Okay, now it's telling me, okay, I'm not gonna, I don't wanna mess up technology. Actually, you don't put them there, you put them on the left-hand column. But anyway, type in what you have, and then on the right, once you add your ingredients, it will give you recipes using those things. So if you weren't kind of sure how to use the ingredients you have, this gives you new recipes to try. Does that make sense? Sorry, I just don't want to mess anything up with this, but this is an awesome resource. Like, share with your friends, share it with your family. It's super helpful. And the cool thing is they also have a Supercook app. And so that way, when you're at the grocery store, you can easily log in. And so you can either go onto their website or use the app, but it can be an awesome resource. Let me go back to did anyone already know about that? No?
I did, but I've never used it. But what do you mean that you could do it at the grocery store, that they have an app? I'm not understanding that.
Oh,
part.
yeah. So there's a free app that you can download on your phone. And so that's what I'm saying. Like if you're going to the grocery store spontaneously and you haven't really prepared, if you know what you have on hand, like, you don't have to look. If you're like, oh, I have something I need to use, you can easily go on your app at the store and a recipe will pop up. Does that make sense? So it just makes it a little bit more, it's like portable, that's all I'm saying. But, rather than just going on the website, it's pretty easy to use the app. And so, yeah, this is something I'd really recommend and it's a free thing. So definitely try it out. And then add family favorites that are on sale. So matching sale items to the meals your family likes. So first thing to think about is like, what do I already have on hand? Using those things. The second thing to think about is figuring out what items are on sale and then using those ingredients to make your recipe. So just like, so some of you might be thinking, how do I know what's on sale if you're not already at the grocery store? So a really cool thing that I've been figuring out, let's say, does anyone typically go to the same grocery store? Like usually? Yeah, for me, I go to Walmart a lot. I also go to King Soopers. But if you typically go to like the same grocery store, every grocery store pretty much has a free app. So if you get like the King Soopers app, the cool thing about it is it'll show you what items are on sale and it'll have digital coupons that you can use. That way you're not having to remember to bring like the hard copy coupons that you get from magazines or newspapers. And you can just scan it when you're checking out. So it makes it super easy. And that is a great way when you're meal planning, pull up the app and see what's on sale and then figure out recipes to make using those things. It doesn't really save money if you're using coupons just because just because, or if you're buying something just because you have a coupon, if that makes sense. But if you are planning to buy something and there happens to be a coupon for it, that's a great way to save money. Coupons are cool. They're going out of style, and I'm not sure why, but they really can save you money in the long run. It's like those little little savings can really add up. So does anyone use coupons? Or is it just me? Yeah. Awesome. Great. That's a great kind of habit to get into, checking the app before you go out grocery shopping. And then this is kind of up to you, but having your family members, weigh in on what they want you to make, that may or may not work for you. I remember my mom, when I was little, asking me what I wanted. Like, she'd let each of the kids pick a meal that we wanted her to make for the week. That might make it more, confusing for you. But if you want to do that, that might be something to try. That way, they'll eat it. You're like, oh, I made this for you, so got to eat it. And then putting the recipes into categories to simplify future planning. All right, so we're starting to get into meal planning, right? So making kind of your own recipe book and categorizing it by the meals. So you can make like a freezer meal section, a crock pot section, a breakfast section, all of those sections. And that way, when you're meal planning in the future, you can kind of flip through your homemade recipe book and you have, recipes that, your family likes that you can use in the future. Does anyone do that already? Kind of like your family favorites recipe book. It's kind of just nice to have that way. You're not having to go online and find it every time. So like printing them out and kind of making your own recipe book.
Mine are usually up here.
Sorry, what?
My favorites are usually like stored up in here. Yeah.
That works too. If you have a good memory, I do not, but if you have a good memory and you just know, that's awesome. If you've made it enough, yeah, you might just know. And then plating for leftovers, like I said, making a double batch of a recipe and freezing it, part of it for another day. And then any meal prep that you can do ahead of time is going to save time in the end, right? So even if it's something as simple as like if you're already chopping veggies, chopping some extra, or browning some beef, ahead of time, or grating extra cheese, those will all help. Something I do is when I get produce, right when I get home from the grocery store, I go ahead and cut it up. If I have like a cucumber in my refrigerator, for some reason, I know it's not a big deal to cut it up, but if I'm really hungry, I won't choose that because I know that there's some work involved. So if you go ahead and cut up your produce, then it's more grab and go and you're more likely to eat it before it goes bad. So that might be something to try. Just kind of like prep it right away. And then step 4 is include plenty of fruits and vegetables. So when you're thinking about meal planning, think about making sure you have enough fruits and veggies to make sure each of your meals has a half plate for everyone that consists of fruits and vegetables. This is a myth that fresh fruits and veggies are healthier, right? Do we know that? So you can get frozen, you can get canned, you can get fresh, all have the same nutrition. The only thing I would say is if you're choosing canned fruits and veggies, make sure it's packed in water or 100% fruit juice, not the heavy syrup, because then that's more sugar. So heavy syrup's just another word for sugar. But yeah, like for me, I typically get a lot of frozen vegetables. That way they're not going to go bad as quickly. And they're like great for stir fries and that. And they're already kind of prepped for you, right? They're already usually kind of cut up. So yeah, definitely use canned and frozen. And that way you can get stuff all year round too. You're not having to rely on what's fresh. And then review. So after making your meal plan, so you've written out on your grocery game plan kind of what your ideas are, and write leftovers on certain days that you're going to have them. The things you want to think about: did you include foods from most food groups at each meal? So thinking of the My Plate, do you have food groups from everything at each meal? Also, and this is a big one, is there a variety of shapes, colors, flavors, textures, and temperatures? Okay, so if you're thinking about, kind of what you want to make for like dinner tomorrow, and you come up with, you want to do some turkey, some mashed potatoes, and some cauliflower. That's all white, right? And that's not very appetizing. So instead of choosing cauliflower, making it broccoli, or instead of doing like mashed potatoes, mashed sweet potatoes, like making a little bit more colorful, that's a really easy tip for making your kids eat. And so, yeah, just kind of like mixing up the flavors and like not everything needs to be hot. Maybe, you know, if you have mashed potatoes and turkey, you choose to do raw broccoli. So you have some different temperatures in there, just kind of having a good variety. And then after you shop, especially if you haven't meal planned before and this will be your first time, look it over. Did you meet your budget goal? And if not, adjusting your next meal, like your next time you do it, so it does, right? So it might take some practice, but meal planning can be a really great thing that you end up really enjoying and being glad that you're doing. Does anyone have, before I move on, does anyone have any comments or questions for me? No?
I will say in terms of color, if anyone's struggling to get their littles to eat like veggies, the rainbow carrots, the girl, for some reason, the girls likes eating, you know, purple carrots instead of orange ones. So it's a kind of a sneaky way to get them to eat it.
Oh, I love that. I love
We
that.
we do that too because I still am I going to waste $2 on the regular generic carrots or spend $2.50 on the rainbow organic ones where they get eaten? So it's one of those, it's worth the money.
Oh, I love that. Another thing to think about, even like just the shape can make a difference. I remember when I was little, I would eat the carrots more. Have you seen those like carrot chips? You know, and so like even like trying things like that, if your kid typically doesn't like carrots, trying to buy that or trying to, you know, find other varieties of the same thing. It's interesting how little small changes can impact whether or not your child likes something. So I love that. Thank you so much.
I also like to put in like, I call them emergency meals, you know, like, cause sometimes life happens and mac and cheese is easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Frozen pizza, easy. And that's like always on my grocery list is Tombstone pizza.
Yeah, no, I love that. I do that too. I always make sure I have some like canned soups and stuff on hand. That way, if there's a night that I didn't plan for and things get busy, I can just like warm it up and I have something ready. So love that. Thanks, Kayla. So this is just my like meal plan-ish, but yours might look totally different. I just want to kind of like show you kind of what mine looks like. And I'm actually going to give you 3 recipes in your follow-up email today. Has anyone tried overnight oatmeal before? Okay. It's so good. I don't even really like regular oatmeal, and overnight oatmeal is like my favorite breakfast. And that's it's overnight. So you make it the night before. So that's like a way to kind of meal prep, because typically in the morning I don't really have time. So I'll give you the recipe for that. Here are like some typical things that I do for breakfast. For lunch, as you can see, most of the days are leftovers because I try to make double batches of my dinners. And then I don't know if you've tried this before. Does anyone do like a meatless Monday? Have you heard of it? Yeah. So like we were talking about, meat is expensive, and typically the American diet, we have more than we need. And so making meatless Monday, and you just choose, you know, a recipe that doesn't involve meat that day. And then crock pot meals are great things you can do ahead of time. Freezer meals, I'm gonna give you this recipe as well, the sesame chicken. It's super easy and you can do it ahead of time. And then as you can see, you can even, you know, figure out when you want to eat out. But Sunday nights are like when I eat my leftovers from the week. There's usually things left over. And then I have a snack section too, because you want to think about that.
Kelsey,
So yeah.
talking about Meatless Monday, Mason, we were talking about peas, and he was like, what exactly are peas? And so I showed him dried peas. And so he chose for me to make those for him for today. That's what I was just doing, is putting them in the pot so that they could cook.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. If you let your kid, if they go grocery shopping with you and they like if you let them pick something out and, you know, something healthy like that, like trying a new produce item or something, then they'll eat it because they were involved in the process. So love it, love it, love it. Thanks, Margaret. And so here's just some of the recipes that I'll give you later. This is a honey sesame chicken, and this is the specific overnight oatmeal that I like am in love with. And so it's super easy, and most likely you have a lot of these on hand, hopefully. So you'll get those in your email later today. And just practice makes perfect. It gets a little, you know, it can be overwhelming when you start meal planning for the first time, but just realizing that eventually you're going to really get in the routine of doing it. And it might even be kind of fun for you. Maybe if the rest of the family knows that your meal prepping time is Sunday afternoons, then that's kind of your time. You can actually kind of like look forward to it and enjoy it. So, okay. So we talked about budget. Then we talked about meal planning. Now we're going to talk about making your shopping list from the meal plan that you've decided for the week. So we know I am a fan of grocery lists. I talk about it all the time because when you're prepared going to the grocery store, it just has so many benefits. It saves time, it saves money, and it makes fewer trips to the store. So an organized shopping list gets you in and out of the store quickly, right? Because you know what you're looking for. You're not there browsing. You're not just going through the aisles, seeing what there is. You're coming prepared. Okay, this is really interesting. I think, Kayla, how you were talking about how you do like the grocery pickup, that's a great idea because it has actually been shown that people spend $2.17 every minute they're in the grocery store. Is that kind of blew my mind. I was like, wow. And it kind of makes sense because if you're there, especially if you're there hungry, things look good and you know, things are tempting. So you want to limit the time you're in the grocery store. The moral of that story is you want to limit the time. Quicker shopping means you'll spend less money, and sticking to your shopping list will help you avoid buying on impulse. So not only is it important to make your shopping list, but being motivated to stick to it. Like, I'm not going to get anything that's not on my list unless like you forgot to put something on there, but you're going to really try to stick to it. And then making fewer trips to the store. So extra shopping trips, not only do they take more time, but it takes gas money, right? To go multiple times. Something I know someone mentioned this, but like even figuring out how many times you want to go to the grocery store per week. Like if you want to just go to the grocery store once per week, like, and you have a certain day that you want to do it, that'll, you know, help save time and money. Also, and I'm not promoting certain grocery stores over others, but certain grocery stores like Walmart are a one-stop shop where you can get non-food items and food items. So, you know, if you go to Trader Joe's or if you go somewhere where it pretty much only has food, you'll probably have to go somewhere else too. And so that's a preference, but it's nice to go to a one-stop shop where you can get everything at once, your food items and your non-food items, right? So make a complete list before shopping and you are more likely to get everything you need. This happens to me when I don't go to the store prepared. I don't know if this happens to anyone else, where like you go to the store for something and then you come home and right when you get home, you're like, I forgot like the main thing I needed, or I forgot like one of the reasons I went there in the first place. So making a list will prevent forgetting things where you have to go back. Okay, so to encourage you to make your grocery list, I'll be sending this to your child's classroom, and this will be a great grocery list for you to kind of start using. Okay, so and we'll talk about this a little bit more. But steps to making a grocery list. Step 1, review your menu and your recipes for ingredients. So get your recipes out that you've decided you want to make for the week. Figure out what ingredients you already have, so you're not buying multiple of anything. And for the ingredients that you don't have and still need, those go on your grocery list. Okay, something I love to do, organize the list according to store layout. So the one I'm giving you, as you can see, it's laid out for you. It's organized like fruits, grains, vegetables, all of that. And the reason that I love organizing my list in this way is that way you're going to each section once. You know, if you have like a produce item at the top of your list and a produce item at the bottom, you're probably going to have to go there multiple times. That way you just get everything in that section at once and it makes your time at the grocery store even faster. Does anyone already do that, or does that seem like a good tip to try? Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Has anyone heard too, to like shop the perimeter of the store? Yeah.
That just ends me up in the snack aisle at King Soopers, so I don't follow that rule at
Is
all.
the snack aisle on the perimeter at King Soopers? I'm trying to like visualize this.
The one right off Fort Carson, it is.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
well, typically the reason we say that is typically the food group items are on the perimeter. Like if you think about it, your produce, your dairy, your meat, all of that is typically on the perimeter. Usually the inside aisles are your processed stuff. So that's why they say stay on the perimeter, but I guess not always. So just,
grocery stores have actually put bread and milk purposefully as far back as possible to make it so you have to walk past other stuff to get to bread and milk.
Oh, isn't that so mean? Why do they
it's
do
also
that?
just easier to keep the back of the store cold.
Interesting.
You're never gonna have dairy up front because the door's open too much. There's also a practical reason.
Not only that, but all the things on the end cap are more expensive too. They purposely put the end caps. It looks like it's a sale, but it's not. They're getting more profit for someone buying those.
Interesting. And another kind of thing that they do, typically the cheaper items are not at eye level. Like you have to kind of look high and low for your less expensive items. So remember to do that too.
Something I wanted to share that I've done. I know the one-stop shopping, trying to go to a store where you can get that to work goes well, but I personally have 4 places that I shop, and I keep a running Excel sheet of which store has which item for the least amount. So I shop at Costco, Safeway, Target, or Big Lots, and the chef store, Shamrock.
Okay.
And I've got a, you know, some things are cheaper at one place, but other things might be more expensive at that place. So I've really narrowed my budget down by keeping a running chart of which prices are at which store.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's yeah, definitely there's different prices at different stores. There's also different prices with different brands. So more than often the store brands are least expensive. So like when I go to Walmart, pretty much everything I'm getting is great value. Every once in a while though, it's not the least expensive, but yeah, just comparing stores and comparing brands, comparing the unit price, you know, so definitely a good way to save some money. Thanks, Liz. And then step 3 is maintaining an ongoing list of low inventory items. So I have actually a magnetic list on my refrigerator where I do this. This is great for things like spices, condiments, things that you're almost out of. Don't wait until you're completely out, but you can write it on there, like sugar, flour, coffee. And that way you're getting those things when you're going grocery shopping and you're never running out of those kind of essential items. And even if you want, you know, keeping it in a place where everyone in the family knows that they can add to it if they're the last one to use something. That might be something to try too. And then reviewing your shopping list and making sure that everything that you put that you want for the week has been accounted for on your grocery list. So you're not going to forget anything. Okay, so yeah, you review your menu and recipes for ingredients, check your pantry and freezer for what you already have. Like I said, add needed staple foods. List only as many fresh vegetables and fruits as you can use before they spoil. So I've said this before, buying things in bulk is always cheaper. Like, you know, buying the bag of apples is cheaper than doing it individually. Getting the bigger gallon of milk is cheaper than doing the smaller. But it's not really saving you money if like you buy the bag of apples and half of them go bad, right? So you know what your family will eat a lot of, but when you can buy in bulk, that's a good thing to do to save some money.
One tip that we do in our house is, since Kenny, you mentioned drinking veggies is a little easier for kids.
Yeah.
If anybody here likes juicing, I have a juicer, and so when veggies are about to go bad, I have a couple apples, and then any of the veggies that are going bad, the apple kind of covers the vegetable taste, and the girls just drink up their veggies, so it kind of avoids going to waste, and they also get some nutrients.
I love that. Great idea. I've also noticed too, and that this just made me think of it, but a lot of, grocery stores will have the discount like bread rack and stuff, if you've noticed that, but they also started doing a discount produce rack where like there's like, bananas that are about to go bad and stuff. And so I will sometimes get those and like make some banana bread, or, they're really cheap. And if you have a way that you can use them before they go bad, it's an easy way to get produce on a discounted price.
A lot of stores do discounted bread racks too.
Yes. And then, so save time and money by going only down the aisles with the food that you need. So trying to like skip, the soda aisle or the chip aisle. And then, like I said, grouping I'm like getting ahead of myself, but go ahead and, organizing your grocery list like this. Or if you're a person who might, forget the hard copy of your list, there's a lot of free apps where you can make a grocery list on your phone. I know that's what my mom does. So whatever, works best for you, you can kind of try some different things out. Like I said, keeping an ongoing list of low inventory items. And that way you're making sure that you're never running out of anything that you use a lot of. So especially spices and condiments. And when you're reviewing your shopping list, here are some questions to ask yourself. Have I included ingredients for all the breakfast, lunches, and dinners on my menu and also including ingredients for snacks? Also, does it look like the items on my list will fit my food budget? Like, do you have a lot of more expensive items on there, or did you choose recipes with a lot of ingredients? That'll add up. If it looks like that you have more than what you budgeted, you can take some things off your list that maybe weren't essential to make your meals. You can also put the things in a separate place in your cart and buy them only if you have enough money, if you want to do it that way too. That's completely fine to do, and they'll put it away for you. I've done that before. And then do you have any coupons for the food items on your list? The really great thing to try to get in the habit of doing is, let's say that you put something on your grocery list that you have a coupon for, just put a little asterisk next to it. And that way, when you're at checkout, you remember to use the coupon. All right. And then also, if there's any foods on sale, like just putting an asterisk for things that you need to remember, like we're on sale or that you have a coupon for. And you can check that you were charged the right price too, if you did use a coupon for something or if you got something on sale. Sometimes they mess up, so it's good to check. And then finding sales, we already talked about this, getting apps for the stores that you shop at the most. Digital coupons are awesome, especially if you weren't planning to go to the grocery store and you end up there. Having coupons digitally, that way, you know, you're not leaving them at home. Read the sales flyer, and remember, using only coupons for the items you were going to get anyways.
I don't know about other stores, but the King Superstores also has a cash back on there, and I will check those, and that if I end up buying it, then I get cash back and I could take it off of my grocery list. Love it.
Love it. Okay, and then what about meal prep? So I'm not going to go too far in depth in this because I think we all have different goals, but meal prep is simply any preparation that you can do ahead of time. So figure out kind of what you want to do. Maybe for you, like you're most tempted, maybe you go out for like to get fast food lunch a lot. So maybe what you want to start with is you want to just start prepping your lunches, or maybe you just want to focus on dinner. Like, you know, make it realistic for what you feel like you can prep at once. But yeah, doing like lunches ahead of time, pre-cutting your fruits and vegetables, something as simple as that will save you time in the long run. You could try doing a week's worth of meals if you want to, but anything that'll save you some time is considered meal prep, and you know, getting in the habit of doing that. So what to prep? I love this picture. This just like makes my heart so happy because having things in your refrigerator like this that you can grab and go is so nice. And so even doing something like this, like having grab and go snacks and meals ready in the fridge. So if you are more about saving time, cutting fruits and veggies ahead of time to make cooking faster, when meal prep is done, meals can be grab and go, which is stress-free. So figure out kind of what your goals are when you're, as far as meal prepping, and start small. And then when to prep. So look at your calendar, choose a day that you can spend some extra time prepping for the week. This is a great thing to try. Roast a few sheet trays of veggies for an easy side dish all week long. Because remember, we want to have fruits and vegetables at every meal. If your kids, it kind of depends on the kids. Some kids like raw versus, you know, cooked. But if your kids liked cooked veggies, having just an assortment of roasted veggies as a side, that way you're not having to figure out different fruits and veggies for each meal. This makes it really easy. And then like cooking chicken breasts ahead of time, so you have it easy for grab and go lunches. Hard-boiled eggs are a great easy snack, so you can do that ahead of time. Cooking brown rice or quinoa to have a whole grain on hand all week. I actually did this last night. I was making rice for myself and I decided to double it, and now I pretty much have enough rice for the entire week, and that easily pairs with a lot of different, you know, main entrees. So that's a great thing to try. And rice is typically pretty inexpensive, so that's a great grain. And then make a large crock pot meal and use leftovers or freezer meals for a later time. Do we use crock pots at all?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love crock pots, and then I'm just gonna kind of plug my crock pot cooking class. In case you don't have one, you get a free crock pot, and you will, for me, I got really excited when I first heard about this class. Hopefully at the end of class, you are super excited and you have your own crock pot. You can start meal prepping using crock pot meals. So not sure when my next class is going to be, but I try to offer it pretty often. So check Dojo for that class coming up. And we are about done. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say too, because you mentioned rice being really cheap.
Yeah.
If you add beans to rice, it makes a complete protein. So it's a great way if you can't buy as much meat, you can still get your protein, and it's really affordable.
I love that. Do you have a nutrition background?
Oh, 1 second, I hear a little crying. I'll be
Okay. I was going to say, most people do not know about the complete protein. So I'm thinking maybe she has nutrition background. But yeah, pairing rice and beans together makes a complete protein, which will make you fuller for longer. It just makes the rice a little bit more hearty. So that's a good thing to try. Beans are typically pretty inexpensive too. And it makes it even more inexpensive if you get dried beans rather than canned and you use your crock pot to cook them. So meal planning is a time and money saver that will allow you to provide more nutritious meals for you and your family that you can feel good about serving. It gets easier over time and will eventually become a positive weekly habit. And meal prep is not an essential part of meal planning. So just do that when it makes sense for you. Do what works for your schedule. All right. So I know I don't want to go too much over time today. I definitely want to take time for some questions, but if you all wouldn't mind, first let's do the post test because I can't give you credit unless you do the post test. So let's do that. And then as we're writing that, feel free to unmute and ask me questions. The class post test today, we're just going to ask, did you learn something new regarding health and nutrition from today's class? And then if you did, if you could just comment something that you learned. So use the chat. If you look down at the bottom of your screen, click the chat and write your answer in, be honest. This will help us dictate if we continue teaching this class or not. So I really appreciate that. So thanks in advance. And then I'm gonna keep this up here too, maybe. As you know, I have multiple classes each month. It's a little while away, but this was my actually last class for December, and here are my January nutrition classes. So I'm just going to keep this up there in case you're interested in signing up for more. But I would love to open it up for questions if you have any. And thank you all for being, so engaging. I felt like this was more of a conversation. I really appreciate it. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
When will it be, or when will you start thinking about quality instead of quantity? Because we talked about budget, but when are we using it, or when can we buy, or try to understand a little more about the food that you're eating or you're getting?
Yeah,
You know,
I would really recommend.
canned foods are really cheap, but some of them will have really bad ingredients in it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, what food did you use as an example?
I'm just thinking, like with anything, like right now I understand the classes about budget, but when should we start thinking more about the quality of the food?
Yeah, I would say I delve a little bit more into that concept in my healthy shopping on a budget class. Also, I have a nutrition label reading class that'll help you understand more kind of what to look for when you're comparing products for quality, like you were saying, like for its nutrition content. Really though, as far as that goes, I would say, I'm trying to put this into words. I would say you can eat healthy on a budget. And I would say just because something costs more, like just because something might be organic or considered natural, that type of thing doesn't always make it healthier. So I know I didn't delve into that concept today, but if you have specific questions, or if you want to sign up for my healthy shopping on a budget class, we'll talk about how to read a nutrition label and how to kind of delve into the quality versus quantity issue. But if you have a specific question, I'd love to answer it. I'm sorry that was super big. I guess
My question, yeah, it was the same. I just wanted to put it out there more, like for whomever wants it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, everyone. One sec.
I definitely think a good tip if people are